This is the Evil Never Dies podcast with Brett and Carl. This podcast may contain adult themes, violence, and strong language. Listener discretion is advised.
The Evil Never Dies podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Evil Never Dies podcast. I'm Brett, and this is episode 169, midweek episode, and it's the first midweek show of the third season. I hope everybody's having a good week so far. So for the midweek, over the weekend, I watched a documentary called Death by Metal from 2016, and I watched this on Tubi. I love Tubi. I'm sure I've said that before. There's all kinds of cool stuff on there. But anyway, this documentary is about the band Death. They are a death metal band out of Altamonte Springs, Florida, which is a suburb of Orlando. And they were founded in 1984 by guitarist and vocalist Chuck Schuldiner under the original name of Mantis, and then they broke up, and a couple of the guys came with him, and they formed Death, and they used his parents' garage as a rehearsal space. And his parents were very supportive of him. So they didn't really care. They let him play it as loud as he wanted to and all that. Now, when Death first came around, they were like one of the most influential and first death metal bands around. There was only a few around at that time. I think California's Possessed started around that time. And like I said, there wasn't too many. And basically, they started the whole Florida death metal scene. When they started writing songs, they recorded demos on a boombox. And there are copies of that out. I think they're all on a reissued, remastered version of the album that I'm going to be talking about tonight, which is their first album, Screambloodygore. Now, there's actually two versions of this album. One that they recorded on a 4-track recorder in the garage, and then they actually went out to Los Angeles in November of 1986 and recorded the album at the Music Grinder, and ended up being released on May 25th, 1987, my 20th birthday. Well, like I said, the genre is death metal. Length of the album is 37 minutes, 51 seconds. The label is Combat Records. Producer was Randy Burns and Chuck Schuldiner. Alright, the band members on this album. Now, these guys went through lots of band lineups over the years, and it's no exception with this album. I think they had numerous people actually play on this, but first we got Chuck Schuldiner, vocals, guitar, and he also did the bass tracks on this album. Chris Reifert on drums, and then you got a guy by the name of John Hand, who's credited on the album on rhythm guitar, but he did not actually perform on the album or during any live performances. And like I said, Randy Burns was producer, and he also did some percussion on this album. Now, this album is very extreme, brutal, and pretty offensive. Well, what do you expect for a death metal band, you know? As you can tell by the track listing that I'm going to go through here. Track 1, we got Infernal Death. 254. Track 2, Zombie Ritual. 435. 3, Denial of Life. 337. 4, Sacrificial. 343. 5, Mutilation. 330. 6, Regurgitated Guts. 347. 7, Baptized in Blood. 431. 8, Torn to Pieces. 338. 9, Evil Dead. 301. 10, Scream Bloody Gore, the title track. And that song's got a little bit of hardcore punk sound to it. I think I'm going to put it on the snippets, so if you want to check that out. And then they had, when CDs came out, they added 2 songs to it. It would be track 11, Beyond the Unholy Grave, and track 12, Land of No Return. And then in 1999, they remastered it and added 2 live tracks to it, Open Casket and Choke on it. 2008, they remastered it again as a digipack version and ended up with a track 13, Denial of Life. And then in 2016, they reissued the Relapse record version, and they had all of the Florida session on there, and rehearsals. It's 2 discs full of stuff. It's like 31 songs or something. It's pretty cool, though. I only got through about half that first disc. But yeah, you can tell what they recorded on that 4-track compared to what they did out in California for sure. And also when they released that in 2016, they got up to 174 on the Billboard Top 200. Now, they really didn't tour for this album. I guess they were offered a tour, a European tour, opening up for Creator, but backed out at the last minute for some reason. I don't know. So they mostly played the East Coast around there during this time. They only played like 7 or 8 shows. As a matter of fact, their touring cycle sucked their whole career, basically, because Chuck would get homesick and want to leave the tour in the middle of it and stuff, so he didn't have a very good reputation touring-wise, so I guess if you got to see these guys back in the day, you were lucky to see them, because they really didn't have that much of a good touring schedule, so... But anyway, that's about all I got for the band Death and Scream Bloody Gore. I hadn't heard this album until like yesterday, for probably 20 years, man. Every once in a while, the whole album, every once in a while a Death song from different albums will pop up on my Apple, but after I seen that documentary, I said I'm going to revisit it, and surprisingly this thing is very well produced and sounds really good for a 1986-87 death metal band, you know. Chuck's a very technical guy. His guitar playing is very technical. And like I said, he's a stickler and wanted everything to sound good. So did a very good job on the production of this. What am I going to rate it? I'm probably going to give it a 3.8. Like I said, it's good for a first debut album. Sounds good. So, yep, 3.8. So that's all I got. Like I said, I think I said earlier, we're going to be at Texas Haunters Convention this coming up weekend. So if you're in Texas and want to come visit us at the convention, Mesquite, Texas, I'll put the info up on the show notes. So other than that, check us out on all the social medias. Hit that like and subscribe button on the YouTube. Doesn't look like I'm going to cut my hair, everybody. So it's not looking good. But yeah, this Sunday's episode, we're gonna put a episode we recorded like a year ago. Guess you could call it a classic episode. So y'all ought to get a kick out of that. It was a totally different setup back then. But anyway, thanks for joining me this evening, and stay evil, everybody.
Touch the hand.